Understanding Kant's Critique of Pure Reason. A detailed summary, Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, 1781, revised in 1787, is one of the most influential works in Western philosophy. It explores the foundations of human knowledge, examining what we can truly know and how we come to know it. This work represents a turning point in epistemology and metaphysics, challenging previous philosophical traditions, including rationalism and empiricism, by proposing a unique synthesis. The context and purpose of the work before Kant, two dominant schools of thought, shaped philosophical discourse. Rationalism, exemplified by thinkers like Descartes and Leibniz, and empiricism, championed by Locke and Hume. Rationalists believed knowledge came primarily from reason, while empiricists argued that knowledge was derived from sensory experience. Kant sought to resolve this conflict by asking, what are the conditions that make knowledge possible? His goal was to determine the limits and scope of human reason, leading him to formulate what he called transcendental idealism, a framework that distinguishes between things as they appear to us, phenomena, and things as they are in themselves, noumena. Key concepts in Critique of Pure Reason. 1. The distinction between a priori and a posteriori. Knowledge. Kant differentiates between two types of knowledge: a priori knowledge, knowledge that is independent of experience, e.g., mathematics, logical truths; a posteriori knowledge, knowledge derived from experience, e.g., empirical sciences. Additionally, he introduces the distinction between analytic and synthetic judgments. Analytic judgments, statements that are true by definition, e.g., all bachelors are unmarried. Synthetic judgments, statements that add new information beyond mere definitions, e.g., the sun will rise tomorrow. Kant argues that some synthetic judgments can be a priori, meaning they are universally true yet not based on experience. This forms the foundation of his revolutionary epistemology and explains how mathematics and fundamental scientific principles can be both informative and necessarily true. Transcendental aesthetic, space and time as forms of sensibility. Kant asserts that space and time are not inherent properties of the external world, but rather a priori forms of human sensibility. That is, they are the necessary conditions through which we experience reality. Without them, human perception would not be possible. For Kant, space and time are not empirical concepts derived from experience, but instead the very framework that makes experience possible. Space structures our perception of objects, while time organizes the sequence of events. This idea was groundbreaking because it suggested that we do not perceive the world directly, but through the interpretive lens of our own cognitive faculties. Transcendental analytic, categories of understanding. Kant claims that the human mind imposes certain fundamental concepts or categories onto experience to make sense of it. These categories include quantity, unity, plurality, totality; quality, reality, negation, limitation; relation, substance, causality, community; modality, possibility, existence, necessity. These categories are not learned through experience, but are inherent structures of the mind that shape all human knowledge. For example, we do not perceive causality directly, but rather impose the idea of cause and effect onto our experiences. This counters David Hume's skepticism, which questioned whether causality was a mere habit of the mind rather than a fundamental principle of nature. The limits of metaphysics. The noumenal versus phenomenal world one of Kant's most famous arguments is his distinction between phenomena, the world as we experience it, and noumena, the world as it is in itself. He argues that we can never have direct access to noumena, things as they truly are, because all human knowledge is filtered through our cognitive faculties. This means that while we can study the natural world scientifically, ultimate metaphysical truths, such as the existence of God, the soul, and free will, are beyond the grasp of pure reason. This does not mean these ideas are meaningless, but rather that they belong to the realm of practical reason, moral philosophy, rather than pure reason, theoretical knowledge. The role of the transcendental dialectic. In the second half of the critique, Kant examines the illusions of pure reason, the ways in which human thought tends to overstep its bounds. He identifies three major types of metaphysical questions that reason seeks to answer but cannot. The psychological idea, the nature of the self, soul or mind. The cosmological idea, the nature of the universe, its beginning, limits and causation. The theological idea, the existence and nature of God. Kant argues that while these ideas are natural products of human reason, they lead to contradictions when we attempt to prove them using pure reason alone. This critique is particularly aimed at traditional metaphysics, which he sees as engaging in fruitless speculation beyond the limits of possible knowledge. Kant's impact and legacy. Kant's work reshaped philosophy by setting new boundaries for metaphysical inquiry and influencing later movements including German idealism, phenomenology, and analytic philosophy. His critique of pure reason established a new way of thinking about knowledge, experience, and reality, serving as a bridge between rationalist and empiricist traditions. His ideas also had profound implications for ethics, aesthetics, and political philosophy, forming the foundation for his later works such as Critique of Practical Reason and Critique of Judgment. Conclusion. Kant's Critique of Pure Reason is a dense but groundbreaking work that redefines our understanding of human cognition. By distinguishing between what we can know and what remains unknowable, he laid the groundwork for modern epistemology and shaped philosophical debates that continue today. His insights into space, time, causality, and the limits of human reason remain central to philosophical discourse, making his work essential reading for anyone interested in the nature of knowledge and reality. Through his synthesis of rationalist and empiricist traditions, Kant revolutionized how we approach philosophical questions about existence, knowledge, and perception, ensuring his place as one of the greatest thinkers in history.